Hi, Happy New Year, everybody. We'll be starting in 1 second. Just quickly, just initially, this session is recorded and it's also be live streamed on YouTube at the moment currently. Um, so all mics and videos have been turned off anyway, so nothing will be shared personally. Um, okay, yeah, so we'll make a start now anyway. Just going through a few of the initial things. So it'll be a 40 to 45 minute session with 10 minutes at the end for any questions. Remember also any questions will be live stream on YouTube as well. You can leave questions in the chat or you can ask me, personally after if you wish to. All mics are muted. Just make sure it's muted. I think everything's muted anyway on my side. Um, and if you're disconnected for any reason, you can come back to this Zoom meeting or you can connect via YouTube on our YouTube channel or Facebook. The links are on the YouTube and Facebook channels to connect back. If I'm disconnected for any reason, then I'll be coming as soon as possible, connecting back on. And so quickly, just for those who may be new, so meditation is actually just recognizing and allowing our attention to rest in our natural state of presence, natural state of awareness. So that's recognizing ourselves beyond the sense of identity we have as a person, beyond the level of thought. We're connecting to a deeper presence, existential presence within ourselves, and recognizing and abiding in that is meditation. It's a natural state of being. It's not something that we achieve outside of ourselves. It's actually just returning home. So the different techniques are used just first initially to concentrate our attention. Once we concentrate our attention and bring it within ourselves, then we can discover these deeper depths of who we are. And so the technique I'll be using today is three different techniques. First, starting with mindfulness of the breath, awareness of the breath. So we'll be just watching our breath at the nostril area, watching the breath coming in and watching the breath going out of the nostril area. And then we'll be focusing on the point in between the eyebrows. And then just a self-inquiry where we'll bringing our attention to our existential presence and just recognizing our inner nature and just abiding at that. And so these three different techniques, you do what you feel comfortable with. If you wish to just stay with the breath throughout the session, that's not a problem. Try the other techniques if you wish. If you wish to anytime come back to the breath, then come back to the breath. Also, some of you may have your own practices. You may feel like you want to skip the breath, go straight to the third eye meditation, or go straight to the contemplative inquiry and just resting in one's inner presence if you have come to that recognition and come to that state within oneself. Do what you feel comfortable with. It's all about just connecting back to yourself and resting in that space, that inner space, inner peace within oneself. And so the techniques are just used to help you bring you back into that space. If you're already in that space, then you can just relax in that space, abide in that space, and just observe the different movement of thoughts and emotions that appear within oneself. So just make yourself comfortable, making sure your phone's on silent or leave, keeping the distractions to the minimum, making yourself comfortable, whether sitting, lying down, preferably sitting, keeping the back straight if you can do, using any cushions, blankets to help make you feel comfortable. And so we'll make a start. So for the first technique is a breath awareness meditation. So just closing your eyes now. And as you close your eyes, just allowing your attention to go to the nostril area. As you breathe in, you can feel that sensation of air coming in the nostrils as you inhale. And as you exhale, again, you can feel that sensation of air moving back out the nostril. So just observe your breath as it is in this moment at the nostril area. You don't need to change your breathing in any way. Don't need to force your breathing, hold your breathing, lengthen your breathing in any way. Just having your attention at the nostril area and just being aware being attentive, being aware of the breath. And how you're aware of the breath is by observing a sensation of air passing in through the nostrils as you inhale, and feeling that sensation out the nostrils as you exhale. Watching the breath coming in, watching the breath going out. And as you become consciously aware of the breath at the nostril area, initially, your conscious mind might try to alter the breathing in some way. As you relax into just watching the breath, just observing the breath without changing it in any way, the breathing starts to flow in its own rhythm. You start to observe the breathing slowing down, becoming deeper, longer, as you relax into the breath and just be aware of it. Be aware of the breath without changing it in any way. So you may feel a sensation of the breath at the left nostril or right nostril or both the nostrils. Predominantly, our breathing shifts from the left nostril, right nostril with time. You'll feel the breath more coming through the right nostril or left nostril, and that alternates with time. So you maybe just be aware of that in this moment. You may be aware that you can feel that sensation of air coming in through the right nostril more or the left nostril. Or you may feel it equally through both the nostrils. Just taking a moment and just being aware and seeing if you feel more of the breath moving, flowing through one nostril than the other. And if you do, just allowing more of your attention to be at the left or right nostril. Just allowing more of your attention to be at the left or right nostril. And focusing your attention at that point in the nostril, whether that's lower down the nostril, upper, up side of the nostril. Just seeing where you feel that sensation the most of the breath. And just allowing your attention to be at that space. And just being in a state of attentiveness, being attentive to that sensation and just being aware, observing, witnessing that sensation at that point in the nostrils. Simply watching, not having to alter the breath or change it in any way, seeing the breathing as a natural process which is occurring by itself without the need for our conscious mind. Simple process in the body that's naturally occurring, and simply just being conscious of the breath, being aware of the breath in this moment, aware of the breath as it comes in and out. And it's natural for your attention to move to different thoughts. It's natural for your attention to move to different sensations in the body or sounds, different emotions, different thoughts of the past, future. But that's not a distraction, it's part of the meditation. Each time you notice your attention is not with the breath, you find yourself maybe caught up in some thought or in some experience. And just when you recognize your attention is not with the breath, in that moment, just come back to that space of observing, that space of attentively being aware. And just be aware of that particular thought or sensation or sound, emotion. And in that moment, just be aware of it. Simply watch that thought. You may find a part of your identity, part of your own self-image, your inner narrative, identifying with that thought, reacting to that thought. Maybe that thought may be pleasant, unpleasant. That emotion may be pleasant, unpleasant. Just noticing that, noticing if the sense of identity is reacting to it in any way. It's taking a step and observing that thought, that experience, observing how the identity may be reacting to that thought or experience, observing how that experience may feel pleasant, unpleasant, or neutral, observing that inner story occurring within oneself. And then gently bringing your attention back to the breath. Again, observing the breath coming in and out. And we start with the breath as we learn to observe the breath without changing it, without altering in any way, just to be aware of it. We start to connect to that inner witness within ourselves, that inner awareness within ourselves, that inner awareness which is unaffected by the breath, which is unaffected by thought or experience. We start to connect to a deeper space within ourselves, a deeper presence, a sense of awareness within ourselves, in which these objects, in which these experiences, the breath, thoughts, experiences can come and go. And we can just see them as they are, moment to moment. Just thus first training ourselves to connect to that space by using the breath. Normally our attention is scattered and is unconsciously, habitually moving to each and every thought, each and every emotion, sensation, sense impression. But now we're training our attention to stay with the breath and just to simply observe the breath as it is in the moment, moment to moment, the breath coming in and out, observing the different sensations of the breath, observing the flow of the breath, observing the movement of the breath, observing the gaps in the breath, observing the silence in between the breath, observing the connection of the breath with the mind and emotions and the body. As your attention deepens, your concentration deepens on the breath, and you simply just observe the breath coming in and out. Naturally, you find your breathing starts to slow down, becomes deeper by itself. And as the breathing slows down, becomes deeper, slower, naturally our thoughts start to slow down. Naturally, we feel a sense of calmness, tranquility in the body and mind. And just to observe that happening within oneself. If you find your attention is scattered in this moment and you're identifying, reacting to some thoughts and emotions, maybe some unpleasant experience, then you'll find also your breathing is maybe more faster, irregular, shallower. And if your thoughts are more pleasant, there's more pleasant emotions within oneself, you'll also find your breathing is different. The quality of your breathing is different. Just watching the breath in this moment, watching the breath coming in and out. And just recognizing that you're simply aware in this moment. This sense of just being aware, just observing in this moment, wherever your attention may be. If your attention is the breath, or if your attention is with some thought or other experience, just recognize this sense of just being aware. And within this awareness, there may be that experience of a particular thought, the breath, or some sensation in the body, or some sense impression. And there's also a sense of maybe identity, which is reacting to different impressions, trying to push away certain experiences or hold on to certain experiences. And you can recognize this deeper awareness is also aware of the movement of that identity, is aware of the inner narrative, is aware of the sense of identifying and reacting to thoughts, emotions, sensations, impressions. And this deeper sense of awareness is unaffected, undisturbed by any experience. Each time coming back to the breath, each time observing the breath at the nostril area. Also, this deeper sense of awareness, we're also aware of the movement of our attention. You can see our attention moving from the breath, moving to some thought or some other experience. And as that thought starts to appear and develop, you can also maybe feel a sense of identity coming up, sense of me, personal I, maybe comes up and starts to interact with that thought, starts to create a narrative, a story around that thought. And we find our perception then narrows into that experience, into that thought, into that narrative, which is being created in the mind. But if we take a step back and recognizing this awareness, deeper awareness, we find that who we truly are is beyond this sense of identity, beyond the different thoughts and emotions. These are just an appearance, a movement of experience within us. There's an unchanging space of awareness within us, in which change is perceived, unchanging center, space of stillness, silence within oneself, in which this movement of experience is observed within, in which the breath is observed within, in which the movement of thought is observed within, in which sense of identity and the story and narrative and emotions and states of mind are observed within. And so now we'll be moving to the next meditation, is the third eye meditation. If you're new to this, new to meditation, stick with the breath. If you wish to follow the next technique, then you can do. If for any reason you feel any tension or wish to come back to the breath, then do so. And so now simply observing the breath again at the nostrils, nostril area, but this time feeling the breath as a flow of energy, of life force energy, a flow of life moving up the nostrils as you inhale and moving up to the point in between the eyebrows, the third eye area. As you breathe in, feeling that life energy moving up to the point in between the eyebrows. And as you're exhaling, just feeling the energy and attention resting at that space in between the eyebrows. Making sure not to over concentrate at the point in between the eyebrows, but just a gentle awareness, gentle attention, gentle gazing at the space in between the eyebrows, watching the breath coming in, feeling the breath as the movement of life energy moving up to the point in between the eyebrows as you inhale and as you exhale, just feeling your attention and energy gather and rest at the space in between the eyebrows. Expand at this space in between the eyebrows. And start to feel the breath as a movement of energy, a flow, a movement of life energy. Feeling that life energy moving, gathering at the space in between the eyebrows. Watching the breath coming in, feeling the energy move up to the point in between the eyebrows. As you're exhaling, feel the tension and energy rest at the space in between the eyebrows. Feeling the energy gather at this space in between the eyebrows, feeling your attention drawn to the space in between the eyebrows, as though it's spiraling. Energy and attention is spiraling at the space in between the eyebrows. Even with your physical eyes shut, feeling your eyes turning inwards and looking, gazing at the space. Or if any reason you feel any tension there, then you can come back to the breath meditation and then again start with the third eye. Just a gentle attention at this space. Naturally, your attention will feel drawn to that space in time. And when you feel your attention is resting more and more at this space in between the eyebrows, then you can stop following the breath or stop visualizing the breath as a flow of energy, but just allowing then your attention just to rest at this space in between the eyebrows. This being the third eye, the inner eye, the two physical eyes looking outward into the physical world, and the third eye looking inwards into the inner world. And the third eye allowing you to connect with that inner dimension of space within oneself, the inner dimension of boundless, infinite space within oneself. Starting to connect to the inner formless dimensions within oneself through the third eye. Normally our attention is goes with some object, whether that's coming through the senses, different objects in the world, coming through our inner senses, or we're interacting our attention with some object of thought, emotion, sensation. It's in the world of solid form. And as we focus at the third eye, we start to connect to the inner formless dimensions within ourselves. We start to connect to our own intuition. We start to connect to layers of oneself beyond the normal thinking mind, beyond the sense of identity we create. Start to connect to a deeper existential sense of being within ourselves. So from the third eye, allowing your attention just to gently gaze at this space and feeling your attention moving inwards into the center of the brain from the third eye. If this naturally happens, just allow it to happen. Just feeling your attention gathering at this space in between the eyebrows and moving into the center of the brain and feeling as though you're looking into the body, looking into the center of the brain, looking into the entire body by looking inwards from the third eye. observing the different sensations in the body, observing the space within the body. And then thoughts may come up, different experiences may come up, but instead of continually grasping onto the thought or that object of experience, start to recognize that space in which these experiences, these thoughts, sensations come and go. A shift of perception now as we observe within ourselves from the third eye. Still, thoughts may come up, emotions may come up, different sensations, impressions may come up. But instead of focusing on each and every object that comes up within our awareness, we start to recognize that space, that sense of presence, space, awareness in which these thoughts come and go. We start to see thoughts naturally arising, staying for some time, and then passing, dissolving back into our inner space. From the third eye, we start to connect to that dimension of space within oneself. That unchanging space, boundless space within oneself. Feeling as though we're looking inwards from this point in between the eyebrows, gentle gazing inwards, and seeing the inner reality of each and every experience naturally arises from your inner space, seems to appear, vibrate, and appear within one's inner space, and creates a picture, image within one's consciousness, a form within one's consciousness. And that form appears as some vibration for a particular amount of time in that space, within one space. And then in its own time, it starts to dissolve, dissipate, and dissolve back into one's inner consciousness, back into one's inner space. So just observing this flow from the third eye, observing, inwardly observing this movement of consciousness, thoughts coming and going, emotions coming and going, sensations coming and going, the sense of identity, the sense of story of around I, me as a separate person also appearing within this space. Also, this sense of identity is not as solid as we think it is. It's just a self-image or image we project within ourselves, within our inner consciousness. Also, this sense of identity also can dissolve into this space of being, into this space of awareness presence. As we start to connect from the third eye, we start to connect to that inner space. We start to recognize the formless dimensions within oneself. We start to recognize a sense of being aware, simply sense of presence, which is before thought, which is before the self-image we create of ourselves, which is before the identity and our beliefs and image of the world. We start to recognize a sense of just being here, simple sense of simple presence, which is before any thought, in which thoughts come and go. And slowly our attention starts to abide in this space of presence. Normally our consciousness, our attention is continually being identified and reacting to each and every thought, each and every object within our consciousness, reacting to the outer world and our perception of the world and our inner perception, where we start to recognize this unchanging space of being, unchanging space of presence, peace, in which these objects within our consciousness appear and disappear. And as we allow our attention to rest in this unchanging state of presence, there's a natural state of meditation. This is the very essence of meditation, is just resting in one's inner being, in one's existential presence. Before any thought, and that space in which thoughts come and go, in which any experience comes and goes. So now you may drop using any meditation technique. If you wish to, you can drop the breathing technique, drop the third eye, and just start to come into that experience instead of coming to the concept of connecting to the being or to that inner presence. We start to come to that inner experience. So you can drop the meditation technique then and just come into a natural state of meditation. It's just meaning you're just recognizing that inner presence within oneself, that inner sense of space awareness within oneself, in which the movements of thought, in which the movements of experiences come and go. And even recognizing even this sense of I as a person with this past and future is just also a movement of consciousness, and just allowing also that just to dissolve back into that inner space, back into one's inner presence. Connecting to that space beyond thought. Thoughts may still come and go, but they're seen as just coming and going within one's inner space, within one's presence. You simply are here and now. If you don't connect to any concept of who you are, don't connect to any sense of identity, but just recognize, come to the existential, the experiential sense of presence, to recognize who you are here and now in this moment, experientially. Beyond the image we create of ourselves in society and through our mind, but just connecting back to our existential presence, which is connected with the entire cosmos, connected with the entire nature, which is life. And when you connect back to this space of presence within oneself, there's no sense of separation with life itself. You are life itself. And even the sense of identity and the sense of separateness and the inner world we create and the outer world is just a movement of that same life, an expression of that life energy, the expression of that one consciousness. Only when you move into thought again, when you move back into the sense of I, me, as a separate person, separate from everything else, then you feel a sense of separation. However, if you allow your attention to rest in this just state of natural being, presence, there's no sense of separateness. There's no sense of this or that. You just simply are. You are life itself. You are nature itself. You are existence itself. And that existence, that life expresses itself through these different thoughts, through this sense of identity, through this body, through the world. It's just an expression of that same life energy, that same inner consciousness. When you connect to that inner space within oneself, there's no sense of me or you. Simply just is a unified space of consciousness, a unified space of being. And through habit, through conditioning, we believe ourselves to be this separate sense of identity. And we believe ourselves into these different thoughts and beliefs and inner stories. And we start to just recognize this identity is just a mask we wear to interact in the world. But instead, it becomes our prison, the identity, and we become trapped into believing that's all who we are. We don't recognize our existential presence, our existential being. When you connect to that inner space within oneself, there's a natural sense of calmness, natural peace, natural sense of joy, bliss, love, which just emanates from that inner core of consciousness within oneself, that inner presence within oneself. There's no need to look for some happiness outside somewhere or some joy outside of yourself. There's a natural exuberance of presence, of joy, of energy, of life. You don't need to get that energy from anywhere, any other object, any other object in the world, or from some desire, from some emotion. Find a natural abundance of peace, of energy within oneself. You feel a deep sense of contentment, fulfillment in this moment. Only when we again identify with our limited beliefs do we feel a sense of lacking, a sense of separateness, a sense of disconnection. So each time we recognize, come back into that experience of who we are as this presence, as this space of being. And naturally, through time, we let go of these limiting beliefs and the limitations of our identity. And we start living from this space of presence, expressing from this space of presence. And our identity becomes our body, and our identity becomes a mask or instrument to express our inner presence, our inner consciousness. Just a minute of silence before we finish, a minute of silence, observing wherever your attention is in this moment, observing any particular experience you're having in this moment. And then connecting back to the sense of being aware, connecting back to the sense of presence here now, and allowing your attention to rest in this space of presence, this space of being. A minute of silence before we finish. And as we move into the new year, our mind, our sense of identity might have many intentions of what it desires or plans for the future. But knowing the more you can connect to that inner space of presence within oneself, the more you can connect to your own intuition, the more you can connect to your own blueprint, your own creative expression. Normally our mind and our identity creates different narratives, different stories, different intentions of the future, which may be disconnected from our inner creative impulse. But to connect back into that space and to connect back to one's intuition, being able to listen within oneself and see if something is right for you in the moment, see whether to take some action upon something, connect back into that inner space. And then you'll have a definite sense of knowing, intuition, of whether to do some action or express yourself in a certain way. You'll be inspired. You'll feel that movement of energy, of movement of life, moving, flowing creatively through you, uniquely through you, in your own particular expression. So now just coming back to the body, coming back to that sensations in the body, coming back to the breath as we finish the meditation, coming back to the breath, aware of the breath coming in and out, aware of the body, our posture, aware of the different sensations in the body, aware of the mind, and still feeling that deep sense of calmness at the background of one's experience, a deep sense of calmness, presence, peace, and knowing that one's true nature is peace itself, is that calmness, that stillness, that presence itself, only clouded by identifying and reacting through the sense of identity, through our limited sense of self. And just opening your eyes in your own time, allowing your attention to move back into the external senses, aware of body, aware of any taste, smell you may perceive, aware of sounds, slowly moving the body, stretching the body if you need to. And knowing after this session to take some water, some food to help ground you. Also giving yourself that time if necessary for introspection or just to sort of process this entire session. And so if anybody has any questions, I can take any questions right now. You can leave it in the chat, or you could switch your mic on and ask any questions if you wish to. Just to let you know that it is being live streamed, so any answers will be sort of put through YouTube. If you have any personal questions you don't wish to ask through YouTube or live stream, then you can always message me through my email address or on my phone, which you can find the information on our website or Facebook. If not, if you have any questions, please leave them in the chat.
was amazing, Priyesh.
Yeah.
That was amazing, and I'm sure that's something different to what you normally do.
Hmm. Maybe, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it was.
yeah,
It
the
was a bit
technique's thingy,
different.
but maybe the energy, yeah, yeah.
Wonderful, wonderful. That bit
Yeah.
from going from your third eye inside.
Yeah.
Wow, wow, what a beautiful space.
Mm.
You know, really, yeah, brilliant. And I am peace. I am love. I am joy. That's who I am.
Yes, yeah,
And all the other stuff is not me. That makes
yeah.
any
Thank you.
sense.
Yeah,
But that was fantastic.
yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Gina. Happy New Year to you all as well.
Yeah.
Thank you,
Happy
sir.
New Year.
Yeah, so that space within oneself is always there. Happy New Year to you as well. Yeah, so it's always there. We only identify with them, these thought constructs and sense of identity, which sort of we're conditioned from childhood, and that becomes our experience. That's our sort of becomes our center for experiencing life, but we don't realize the deeper presence of who we are. So yeah, it's just coming back to that. Thank you. Happy New Year. Yeah. So again, there'll be another session next week, Sunday, 2 p.m. I am thinking of doing again, like I used to, the sound meditation. So with the sound meditations, I can't do actual live stream. I have to record the session and then um, live stream it through probably YouTube, just because of the instruments are not picking up well. So I have to do a sort of post edit with the sound to sort of increase the levels of audio. So possibly next week I might do a live stream of a sound session from 1:15 to just before 2, and then after 2 I'll do this guided meditation. So if you do have the time, you can always connect to the sound bath first and then do the meditation after. If not, you can watch the video at any point. um yeah, so thank you for coming. Again, we do Wednesday one-to-ones, a free session, and then this Thursday is the group session in Leicester also. So thank you for coming.